Hey, last week I gave you some homework to look for patterns. And I have never taken an IQ test before, but occasionally on the internet and various places I'll see, like, take an IQ test. I'll have like a teaser thing. So I thought it'd be fun just to present some pattern problems to you today. Some of you will twitch like you're back at the SAT. But check out this one. See if you can figure out what the answer is and shout it out if you know it. Or just tell your neighbor. Whatever. Okay, and the correct answer is E. So you're like, what? Okay, here's a harder one. Some of you are like, this is my favorite part of church ever. Some of you hate me. Okay, so the correct answer is this one right here. I had to actually look on the interwebs to figure this out. And they said the reason was 3 sides to each shape, 3 total dots. 4 sides to each shape, 4 total dots. 5 sides to each shape, 3, 4, 5 total dots. Oh. Okay, take it down because some people are completely distracted and I've lost them for the whole service. Today, we are going to take the next step in gaining wisdom because just recognizing patterns isn't enough. That's what we talked about last week, but there's another step. And here's why. You know this. There's not a one-to-one connection between intelligence and wisdom. There's not a one-to-one connection between intelligence and success. Someone actually can be really smart, but not successful or wise. Author Malcolm Gladwell gives a great example of this. His name is Chris Langan, and he's said to be the smartest person alive. And for example, your IQ is probably about 100. Einstein's was 150. Chris Langan's IQ is 195. For fun, he sits at home and reads about philosophy, math, and physics. For fun, he's developing some treatise he calls the Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe. I have no idea what that means. I just know I don't want to hang out with him on Friday nights. But I also recognize he's a smart guy. But here's the thing. Chris Langan does not own his own business. He does not do like secret government work keeping our country safe. He is not a millionaire because he's figured out some secret algorithm for predicting the stock market. Chris Langan, the most smart, most intelligent person alive, is a bouncer on Long Island. Chris Langan never graduated from college. He's never had any real success because he couldn't connect his ability to see patterns to everyday success or wisdom. So when he was in high school calculus, he thought it was so much fun, but he was mad, distractingly so, that the teacher was so boring. He couldn't figure out this is the most fun thing ever. He wanted to go to college, but he needed financial aid, and he couldn't figure out when the financial aid stuff was due. It didn't make sense. And if you interview him now, he actually talks about how the man has always been out to get him. Chris Langan could see patterns, but that's where it stopped. So he's not actually successful or wise. So here's what we said last week. We said wisdom is seeing patterns. It was the tennis ball, right? But we said this ... means there's another part coming because wisdom is not just seeing patterns. There's a next step. That's what we're going to learn today. And we said the setup for the series, the reason we showed that goofy video of fails, is because we all have those things in our life that we look back on and say, what was I thinking? And not in a right or wrong sense of that. I mean, we have those times where like we knew what was the right thing to do and we purposely chose the wrong thing. That's a different sermon. What we're talking about in this series is the times where we thought we were choosing the right thing, but as we look back now with our wisdom experience, we say, oh, facepalm moment, that was not the right thing at all. So the first step of wisdom we learned from Proverbs chapter 1 is seeing patterns. What we're going to see today is there's more to it than that. We're going to learn from the second chapter of Proverbs, written by a man named Solomon. We're going to, again, post this on social media every day this week so you can get in it and be reminded of it every single day. But what I want you to notice as we read through this is you're going to see a lot of language about paths and ways and roads. Okay, here's what Solomon says. Tune your ears to wisdom and concentrate on understanding. Search for them as you would for silver and seek them like hidden treasures. So we want wisdom. Wisdom's good. Wisdom is helpful. I hope you saw some patterns this week. Like, when I date this kind of person, it doesn't work out. Or when I go to this website, there's a pattern. I spend money that I didn't plan on spending. Or there's a pattern when I stay up till 3 a.m. playing video games. I don't turn my homework on time. Wisdom sees patterns. I saw some patterns in myself this week. Here's a pattern I've noticed. If I get 8 hours of sleep, I'm a better person. Like, I'm a better human. I am more like Jesus if I get 8 hours of sleep. On the flip side, here's another pattern in my life. If I get way less sleep than what I need, I typically, without even really consciously thinking about it, it seems, start my day with empty carbs and sugar because I feel like I need that extra boost of energy to start the day. I eat unhealthier if I get less sleep than I need. Last Sunday, first week of NFL, I actually noticed another pattern. It was coming fresh off the message. I go home, and I realize this pattern in my life, I'm sure you can't relate, is my Sunday afternoon mood and how I treat my family during football season is directly correlated to how the Ravens are playing on the football field. So I treated my family really good last Sunday, thank you very much. And I'm going to treat them good today, thank you very much. Wisdom is seeing patterns. I hope you asked somebody last week, what pattern do you see in my life? Solomon goes on. Then you'll understand what it means to fear the Lord, and you'll gain knowledge of God, for the Lord grants wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He guards the paths of the just and protects those who are faithful to him. Now, when it says he guards the paths, I don't think that means in some supernatural way, like God's watching every single step you take, and if you walk there, then God's going to change that, and if you walk there, then God will change that, and he's always just one step ahead of you. I don't think that's what it means. I think it means that God has set up life in a way to work certain ways, so if you go this way, it's going to work out good for you, and if you go this way, it won't. The Apostle Paul says it this way, you reap what you sow. Meaning, if you plant a sunflower seed, you're not going to get a tomato. If you plant a green bean, you're not going to get a cucumber. If you plant using credit cards, you're not going to grow becoming a millionaire. If you plant dating losers, you're not going to grow waking up next to a man of character one day. God put in place certain systems. Here's how the universe works. We've said it this way before. God is a God of systems. Think of how he made our bodies. It's cells, tissues, organ systems. Think of how he structured the universe. We live in the solar system. God is a God of systems. That doesn't mean he never acts in our world. Jesus breaking into our world is God disrupting the system for our benefit. But typically, God acts in a way according to the systems he's set up. So Solomon is writing this proverb to teach us the natural result of you embracing wisdom is things will work out better for you. Verse 9, then you'll understand what is right, just, and fair, and you'll find the right way to go. Again, so much language today about roads and ways and paths. So let me remind you of something he's saying that we've talked about before. This will be a review for some of you, but it's set up for our main point today. Direction, not intention, determines destination. Direction, not intention, determines destination. And you know this. Here's how I illustrate it. Let's say you wanted to go to Disney World. Now, why you would want to go to Disney World, I have no idea. You're crazy. But let's just say you wanted to go to Disney World. You save money. You buy your park passes in advance. You research on the internet. What day should we attack which park? What ride should we ride in which order? Which time should we take a break and go to the pool? And where should we stay? When should we go to that restaurant? What restaurant should we skip? And when should we go to the tourist stop? And what are we going to do to stop on the way there? You have the perfect Disney vacation planned out. Here's the problem. If you get on I-95 North, you're not getting to Disney World. And you can want to go to Disney World. And you can feel like you're going to Disney World. And you can have planned the best Disney vacation in the history of Disney vacations. If you go the wrong direction, you're not going to get there. And it doesn't matter how badly you want to. Why? Because direction, not intention, determines destination. This is why you get lost sometimes, right? You intend to get to the restaurant. You want to go to your friend's house. You feel like you should arrive at the arena, but you go the wrong direction. And direction, not intention, determines destination. That's why this chapter, Solomon has so much language about roads and paths and all that kind of stuff. Because if I get on a certain road, I'll get in debt. If I get on a certain road, I will get out of debt and build wealth. If I go this way, I'll get married. If I go on this way, I'll stay single. If I go on a certain road, I'll be in shape. If I go on this path, I won't. If I go on this road, I'll make good grades. If I go this direction, I won't. Why? Because direction, not intention, determines your destination. Solomon keeps going. Wisdom will save you from evil people. These men will turn from the right way to walk down dark paths. They enjoy the twisted ways of evil. Their ways, their paths, their roads are wrong. So catch this. Evil people are on a path. And here's the thing. You typically won't know where the path ends, but you know it's a wrong path. Think about this. Think about this. This is when you're at work and there's that woman you're not married to, but you're really attracted to, and she's kind of flirting with you. So you tell her, hey, why don't you just give me your number in case we need to connect after work hours about this project? And this is when you look at that stuff on media and you're already coming up with your explanation that you'll use to rationalize if somebody else walks in while you're looking at it. And this is when you order something online and the thought goes through your head, you know, that person always holds me accountable for my finances, my spouse or my friend, whatever. But I think I won't mention this one. See, this is talking about the point where you know you're on a path and you probably don't even know where it ends, and you probably don't want it to end somewhere horrible, but you know you're on a path. And you maybe can't even articulate why it's a wrong path. You probably, in your defense, could articulate in a decent way at least why you think it could actually be a good path. But you know. You know. And Solomon says, in case you don't know, let me give you an illustration. You've all seen it. He says, wisdom will save you from the immoral woman, from the seductive words of the promiscuous woman. She's abandoned her husband and ignores the covenant she made before God. Entering her house leads to the grave. It's the road to death. It's the road to the grave. The man who visits her is doomed. He will never reach the paths of life. And this is Solomon's illustration for what he's talking about. He says, bad things happen when you go down paths. And to illustrate this, think of the last person you know who had an affair. How'd it start? Two strangers didn't see each other and just have an affair one day. It started on a path, and you start with downloading an app, or start with texting someone after hours, or laughing a little too hard at a joke, and complimenting their appearance, and then one thing led to another, but you knew you were on a path the whole time, and you're not shocked at all, at least everybody watching is not shocked at all how it ended. And you didn't know, but you knew. You didn't plan on it going that far, but you kind of did. Because it was a path. See, destructive choices are rarely the result of one choice. Destructive choices come from walking down a path. So he's told us all this morning, he's got kind of depressing on us, right? And then he ends with a positive statement. Here's what he says, the key verse. He says, so follow the steps of the good and stay on the paths of the righteous. Follow the steps of the good and stay on the paths of the righteous. So here's what came to me as I was thinking about this. Is he doesn't just say, stay on a path in general. He says, follow their steps. And here's what I thought of. Growing up, the big amusement park where I lived was called Kings Island. It was in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was about a 2-hour drive away from where I live. So kind of the end of the school year, everybody be asking each other, you going to Kings Island this summer? You going to Kings Island this summer? And every 2-3 years, you know, one of our friends, somebody in our friend group would go and maybe take some other people. And you went to Kings Island. There's lots of good rides, lots of good roller coasters specifically. But the baddest of them all was the Beast. And the Beast still holds world records for the longest and fastest wooden roller coaster, even after multiple decades. It's absolutely amazing. It scares you to death. But the Beast is kind of at the back of the park, and it's a hilly park, so you can't really just see it and walk to it. So what they did is in the park, they put the Beast's footprints. So all you got to do, if you don't know where the Beast is find the footprints, follow the footprints, and you're going to end up at the place that everybody goes to Kings Island to get to the Beast roller coaster. And then you get on the Beast, and you wet your pants, and you scream like a little girl, and then you follow the footprints to do it all over again. But Solomon says, look at it. Follow the steps of the good. So here's what he's saying. He's saying, you recognize some patterns, so you know there's a path, right? But you got to do more than that. You got to see their step and follow the step. And see their step and follow the step. And follow the step and follow the step. Say it with me now. And follow the step and follow the step. A little louder. Follow the step and follow the step. And you keep on following the steps. This is how you succeed in life. This is how you get wisdom. And catch us. Students especially. This will change your life. It's not just in general live wisely. It's not just in general recognize patterns. It's follow their steps. So here's what he's saying. He's saying if you want to build wealth, don't just kind of try to follow a path. He's saying sit somebody down who's decades ahead of you, has no debt, and has built an empire of millions, and saying, what step did you take when you were 20? And what step did you take when you had school debt? And what step did you take when you wanted to buy a car? And what step did you take when you wanted to buy a house? And follow their steps. And if you want to have a great marriage one day, you don't just like memorize one Bible verse about love. You sit somebody down who, because of Jesus, has been having a great marriage and is now 60 years old. And you say, what step did you follow when you first got married? And what step did you follow with intimacy? And what step did you follow when you wanted to have kids? And what step did you follow when you had problems? And what step did you follow? And you follow what steps they had. If you're going through a hard time, you don't just show up at church on Sunday. You find other people, multiple people, who have gone through a hard time, and you say, what'd you do on day 1? And what'd you do on day 2? And what'd you do in week 1? And what'd you do at the first holiday? And what'd you do when somebody said something rude? And you follow their steps. See, wisdom isn't just praying for wisdom. Wisdom isn't just seeing patterns. Here's how I say it. Here's how I translate what Solomon says. Wisdom is seeing patterns, because you got to know where to follow the steps, and creating a system. Wisdom is seeing patterns and creating systems. And this is how you live wisely. The next step today, the follow the steps, is creating systems. This is the genius of the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University stuff. It's not just, hey, get debt free and build wealth and give. I mean, that's good. It's do this step, and then this step, and then this step. And he's got, 6, 7 steps. So after you've done them, you know exactly what to do. So you manage your money and your money doesn't manage you. Wisdom is seeing patterns and creating systems. So here's what I want to do. If you want a better life, I'd encourage you to take notes today. If you're in middle and high school especially, I would encourage you to take notes, because this will put you on a trajectory different than a lot of people in this church. I want to spend the rest of our time giving you 4 reasons systems are good to live by. Wisdom, really, following the steps is good to live by. Here's the first. Systems take less discipline. Systems take less discipline. I don't really like that word discipline. Like, I want to be a disciplined person, but it doesn't sound fun. So I want something that takes less discipline. Systems take less discipline. Think about this. Sleep researchers have found that if you get up at the same time every single day, it is actually healthier and easier for you to get up every day. So if your job or your school demands that you get up at 5 a.m. every day, but then on Saturday you're sleeping until 11, it's going to be harder and actually worse on your health for you to get up every single day at 5 a.m. Now, the answer isn't to quit school or your job. The answer may be, I think I should try getting up at 5 a.m. every day, which at first will be much harder and more miserable, but over time will be so much easier. That system will take less discipline. A lot of people I look up to when it comes to healthy eating do meal prepping. I have a friend. Today they're going to go home and they're going to meal prep all their lunches and dinners for the whole week. So it's all in the Tupperware good to go for lunch. It's all ready in a bag to go in the crock pot for dinner each week, so that if they have a bad day on Thursday, the week's been long, the boss yells at them, they had to stay later, then their commute was longer, they're not thinking, well, maybe I'll just drive through and eat something bad. They say, well, I already prepped it, so I might as well just eat it, because that's going to be the easier thing to do. Their system takes less discipline. We've said before, people who eat healthy don't resist Doritos. People who eat healthy don't buy Doritos. So when they get hungry and want a snack just like you do, they go to the fridge and all they got's fruit and vegetables. Well, I guess I'm eating this. It doesn't take discipline to resist the Doritos. They don't need the discipline. System takes less discipline. Verse 4, look at it. Search for wisdom and understanding as you would for silver. Seek them like hidden treasures. What does that mean? Silver, money, would make your life easier. So wisdom, creating systems, makes our lives easier. Why? Because we don't need as much discipline. Another example I'll give you. You may know people like this. So many people I know, their phones have gotten them in trouble because they were messaging people they shouldn't. Or they were looking at things they shouldn't. Instead of having the discipline to resist that because they kind of proved they couldn't, is they just got a phone without the internet or ability to send that type of message, or that app was blocked, whatever it was, so they don't need the discipline. That's wisdom. Next thing, wisdom is seeing patterns and creating systems, and systems show priorities. Here's what I believe. I think you believe this. If you don't have a system for doing something, it's not a priority for you. Like if you don't have a system of when and where you do your homework, it's not a priority. If you don't have a system to read, reading's not a priority. If you don't have a system to date, dating's not a priority. If you don't have a system to eat healthy, that's not a priority. And you can feel it's a priority. You can argue it's a priority, but if you don't have a system, it's not. If it was a priority, you'd have a system. I remember a couple years ago, we were standing in that hallway at the movie theater. We walked down on that video where our church used to meet, and I can't remember who it was just because the conversation stuck with me. I can't remember the face with it. But somebody said to me they had just lost their job. And as he talked about it, I seemed more concerned about him not having a job and finding a new one than he did. So I started asking him questions if he was like worried about this. And he said, no, because I have a good system. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm working over 40 hours a week at finding a job. I'm meticulously tracking this. And every day I get up and I spend minimum 8 hours sending out resumes and cold calling on places that may need jobs, even if they don't advertise it online, to see where I can get a job. And I know for sure that I have the gifts and talents and degree that if I just stick with my system, I'll get a well-paying job. He had a system. I talked with a couple at Mosaic not too long ago, and I don't know how it came up, but it's Mosaic, and they said, we have a system for our sex life in our marriage. I was like, do tell. And they said, some of you are going to start taking notes. And they said, well, we don't like the pressure. We don't want to feel pressure from each other, but we also like each of us initiating from time to time. So we've kind of come up with this system where, in this time frame, she'll initiate once, and in this time frame, he'll initiate once, and that works for us because it's no pressure, but it feels like we're desired by the other person, and it's just great. Got a system. Look at it again. Wisdom will save you from the immoral woman, from the seductive words of the promiscuous woman. Why? Because if you have wisdom, you have a system to focus on your wife, on your marriage. You set up systems to live that out. Think about it this way. How often have you not done something you meant to do or were supposed to do, and your answer is, I forgot. And it's not like you chose to not do it to be a bad person, but think about this. You're not going to remember everything in life. Like, you're not that IQ genius guy we talked about earlier. You're going to forget. So, what is beneath I forgot is I didn't create a system. Because if something's important for you to remember, you create a system. By the way, if you haven't noticed, Solomon today is just telling us stuff we already know. We just haven't lived out in certain areas. See, what you can do is you can forecast what you want to be a priority for years down the road, and now you can create a system to get there. Meaning, if you want to follow Christ for your entire life, you can realize, okay, if I want to follow him for the next 60 years, what systems do I need now to implement? I mean, on a very simple level, if you want to own your house outright, you need a system. Okay, how am I going to buy a house, and how am I going to pay down the mortgage early? On a practical level, if you think, I want to be one of those people who has all my teeth into old age, you set a system now. I'm going to brush my teeth multiple times a day. I'm going to go to the dentist every 6 months. What is that? It's creating systems, so it's a priority. Wisdom sees patterns. Oh, that should be important to me, and create systems around it. Next one, systems are how you grow. And when I say how you grow, I mean any way you want to grow. You want to get healthy physically. You want your finances to be healthy. You want to grow spiritually, further your education. Any kind of growth is done by systems. Now, here's what I used to think. I used to think that growth happened on mountaintop experiences. And so I'll just use following Jesus as my example. I used to think following Jesus happened because of mountaintop experiences that gave me chills and just made me ready to run through a brick wall for Jesus. And so when I was really young, it was like the Friday night at camp. And then when I was a teenager in college, I guess, it was sitting in the dorm room with an acoustic guitar and some close friends. And then maybe later it was the big worship festival. And then later maybe it was going to a conference in an arena where I'd see my favorite inspirational speaker. And I'd leave there with the chills ready to take on the world for Jesus. But after enough of those experiences, I finally realized, those are fun. They're not bad. But those just motivate me for a short amount of time. I mean, I kind of equated it to watching a YouTube video that made me want to learn how to do 50 pull-ups all at once. But after like the next day at the gym, I was like, oh, I'm kind of sore. No, I don't think I want to do that anymore. And I realized over time that mountaintop experiences are good for a moment. In fact, the phrase mountaintop experience people use it for different things. It comes from the Bible. Because people like Moses and Elijah and Peter literally went up on top of a mountain and experienced God. So that's where the phrase comes from. So those are inspiring for a moment, but systems are how you grow long term. Look at it again. Tune your ears to wisdom, and you'll find the right way to go. When you walk down the right way, it's not a one-time event, it's a way of life. And real growth happens not just when you decide to get on that path, but when you stay on that path for years and even decades. So, what this means is if I don't have systems, I experience the up and downs of my emotions. And you're probably not like me, but sometimes my workout stinks. And sometimes we go on a date night that's a dud. And sometimes I read my Bible and I don't get anything out of it whatsoever. It's just boring. And you're probably not like me. You probably never have those things. But for me, when those things happen, I've learned not to freak out because I have systems for all of them. So I work out 6 days a week. So if one workout isn't that great, that's okay. I'm going to crush it tomorrow. And if one date isn't that great, that's okay. My wife and I have a system. We connect daily, date weekly, getaway quarterly, vacation yearly. We got a system. We're going to get there. We're fine. If I don't get something out of my Bible today, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to get something out of it tomorrow. I mean, think about your spiritual growth. Think about this. If you have a system for connecting with Jesus every day, then one day, if there's a bad sermon, like if you went to another church, or one day we don't sing your favorite worship song, that's not going to negatively impact your spiritual growth because you have a system in place. And you know you're growing because you're what? You're following the steps of others. And following the step, and that frees you from every experience having to be a mountaintop encounter with God. Systems, not mountaintop experiences, are how you grow long term. And you know this. I mean, think about this. You've been inspired to lose weight, but unless you create a system for better nutrition, inspiration isn't going to get you there. Now, I have one more point because some of you are thinking, this sounds right, but this sounds like a boring way to live. Like, Carl, I'm a fun person. I'm an emotional person. I'm a spontaneous person. All you systems people can go over there and do life right, but we're going to be over here doing life fun. Okay, here's my last point. Systems lead to fun. Systems lead to fun. Think about this. Sometimes we think the best way to have fun is to follow our emotions without system, without wisdom, just let loose and party. But how many great decisions in your life are because you just followed your emotions in the moment? I mean, that was college spring break. Right? The truth is, having great systems actually enables you to have more fun, enables you to be more spontaneous. Think about this. I'll give you an example. 2 different ways to do vacation. If you're a spontaneous person, you can decide when you walk out today, hey, I think it would be fun to go on vacation to Europe tomorrow. And you book a ticket and you go and you live it up for 10 days and you bring home thousands and thousands of dollars in credit card debt. And that was fun, but then you pay it off for the next 3 years. How about this instead? How about you create a system where, I'm a spontaneous person. And 2 years from now, I'm going to save enough money where I can do a spontaneous vacation. I'm not even going to let myself decide until I get there. And you save thousands of dollars. And then when the day hits, you say, I'm going to be spontaneous. I'm going on vacation tomorrow. You call in for work. You say, I'm out of here. And you go do something you hadn't even planned on, never done before. And then you can live it up knowing the debt's not going to follow you home. And you have a better time, don't you? systems lead to fun. Think about friendships. You could say, hey, I'm going to go out with some friends tonight. But if you don't have systems, you may look around and not have many friends. Maybe you need to join one of those mosaic groups. I'm not saying you're a loser. Don't feel bad for them. I'm just saying it happens, right? You moved here from somewhere else. Maybe you need one of our mosaic groups. And then you put yourself out there. You create systems for friendships. So then when Friday afternoon hits and you realize you don't have plans, you're confused about which friend you're going to text and see if they want to hang out because you got so many. Systems lead to fun. If you say, I'm going to have a great worship experience today, I hope the band doesn't mess up if you're just coming in blind saying that. But if you have systems where you're saying, I am memorizing Jesus' word daily, and I pray to him daily, and I have a group of men who hold me accountable, and every week we talk about how God's grace is coming to life more than life because we confess our sins to each other, and even when we don't, we talk about how we're walking in his grace and truth. And so you walk into worship knowing, God, I'm going to have a great worship experience today because I've been worshiping you all week, and it doesn't have anything to do with who's on stage and what song they sing. I'm just here with you, and I honor you. It's different. Systems lead to fun. So, if you are a more naturally systems person, remember that's not the end goal. Systems lead to healthy relationships. And if you're a more spontaneous person, remember that systems will set you up for the best kind of spontaneity. Look at the verse. I love this. Wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will fill you with joy. Isn't that the life you want? That's the life I want. I want God to fill me with joy, both eternally and practically. It comes from living in wisdom. Now, here's the kicker for all this, is you already have a life full of systems. And your life is perfectly designed to get the results you're getting. So for some of us, our system is, when the alarm goes off, I'm going to hit snooze 17 times. For second service, I got it. For some of us, your system is, when I see a hot girl, I try and go sleep with her. For some of us, our system is, I read my Bible when I feel like it. And that's your system. So my question today is, after listening to Solomon, don't you want a new system? I think it'd lead to a better life. So here's what we're doing. We spent 2 weeks explaining or learning really from Solomon what wisdom is. The next 2 weeks, John and I are each going to take one topic and unpack how we apply this wisdom principle to that specific topic. I think it'll really help you both for those topics and to figure out other stuff on your own. This week, I want you to create one system. Just take one of those patterns you saw last week, one of those patterns that a friend or family member pointed out to you saying, hey, I see this in you, and create a system around that to see if you can't improve it and follow somebody's steps. Don't create 10 systems. That won't work. You'll get lost in it and it'll all fall apart. Create one system this week. But let me end with this. David once said in the Bible, the fool says in his heart that there is no God. And it sounds like he's saying, you're stupid if you don't believe in God. But he's not saying you have a low IQ if you say you're an atheist. Here's what I think he's saying. I think he's saying it's just the worst way to live because it's unwise. Here's what I mean. When I look down the path at people that I want to get where they're going, and I want to get where they are, they're humble. They don't walk in condemnation and shame. They have deep relationships that have lasted decades. They have a joy that I haven't gotten to yet. The thing they all have in common is grace. The thing they all have in common is Jesus. See, Jesus gave us a system, and he called it the Lord's Supper. We often call it communion. And he said, I'm going to give you a system before they go kill me. The system is whenever you get together, I want you to take some type of bread that represents my body and some type of grape juice that represents my blood. I want you to eat that and drink that to remember me. People ask me, why do we celebrate communion every week? Well, because Jesus told us to. He gave us a system. People ask, well, why do some churches not do that? I don't know. You'd have to ask them. But what I know is every week we take a moment to remember the reason I'm here is for grace. And the base system of my life is depending on the grace that I can only get from Jesus. Because he's made me new, he died for my sin, he's washed me clean, and he gives me new life. He gives me that joy that Solomon wrote about. And if you want that, we want you to check the baptism box in your connection card so we can talk to you about it. But this week, your homework's to create a system. And this moment is for us to engage the system Jesus gave us where we can focus on grace and be reminded that Jesus makes us new. So let me pray and then we'll celebrate communion. Jesus, thank you for grace. And thank you that you don't just give us grace for when we die one day. You give us grace for right now. You give us wisdom for here and now. And Jesus, we love you, but you first loved us. And we thank you for that, and we honor you for that. So wherever we are this morning, whether we're first exposed to this stuff or going through a hard time or coming back to you after a long time away or just here again, I pray that we will focus on your grace in this moment. We love you, Jesus. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.